would you ever run for office, man? We need people to step up right now. We're going to need people to clean up this mess. I know you're a Democrat. I might try to get you to declare your independence and leave the Democratic Party. But either way, man, if you run, you got my vote and support. Can we get you to run for anything?
Fuck no.
Citizen! I say hey! Citizen! I say hey! They're calling Ken and Army fuck schizophrenia. Take your massive weapons and let me on your way.
Independent Americans around the country and around the world, we have a very special treat, a true honor. A man that I have admired, I have been a fan of, I have been inspired by, is finally joining me on this show. The boys are back. And if you don't know the music of Dropkick Murphys, you should. Everything from I'm Shipping Up to Boston, Rose Tattoo, the state of Massachusetts, Only the Strong. The boys are back, of course, and Citizen Ice. They do tremendous music and creativity and energy and community, but they also do a ton for this country, for the community, and for the world. Veterans, kids, cops and firefighters, vets, Ukraine. They're defenders of our democracy. So I am very, very honored and privileged to finally have on the show the great and powerful Ken Casey is here on Independent Americans. Welcome, sir.
What an intro. Can I hire you for my hype man? That was amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
before we get, Paul,
honored.
it's an honor to be here, but before we get started, because I want this to go well, you have some propaganda behind your right shoulder that I'm going to need you to take down for this interview, please.
You're referring to the mighty graphic, the mighty New York Yankees.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. You can, listen.
You know what?
Listen, with everything that's going on in the world now, that little rivalry seems like all love,
Right? I mean, maybe we can even get Yankees and Red Sox fans together. But I got something for you, man. You don't know this, right? And this is special, okay? You don't know this. My now 7-year-old, River, his favorite basketball team in the world, for a very weird number of reasons, is the Boston Celtics. And I have never showed this to anybody in public. But on his 5th birthday, my brother got him this.
I like
this.
it.
This is why you need to watch on YouTube.
I love it. Someone's got some taste in it.
It is a Celtics jersey. It is a Celtics jersey with the Rieckhoff name on the back, which if one day he gets drafted in the NBA, ends up being on the Celtics, I'll be okay with that.
That'd be really worth something, man. If I knew you were going to have that there, I would have brought out my 2004 World Series ring that the Red Sox gave me. So, but anyway,
did they give you a ring? They gave you a ring?
Yeah, the Red Sox have been great to us. Yep, we've been involved in we've been involved in all their winning years and only their winning years, believe it or not. They've never asked us to do anything on the years they didn't win. So either we're good luck or we just have good timing. But yeah, being a part of that, I was on the field in St. Louis, calling my 86-year-old grandfather who had waited his literal whole life. So see, sometimes being a loser pays off, because when you finally get the win, it's, that much more valuable. And I'd also like to say I was in Yankee Stadium when we completed the 4-game comeback, and that was a spiritual experience, and but anyway, you got more rings than us all.
Yeah, that was spiritual, all right, man. That was spiritual. But I think it's number one, my other son is a Jets fan, and I've always said that that's going to build integrity. It's going to steel you for life from adversity, right? And that's what being a Red Sox fan for.
Yes, because my little shits, my kids are, in their early 20s, and my youngest is 17, and it's like I had to explain to them, like, guys, it isn't typically like this. You have to be used to losing to appreciate a win, and so there's a whole generations of spoiled Massachusetts kids who didn't grow up the way I did.
They are spoiled. I don't know if you know, I went to school in Massachusetts, deep behind enemy lines in Western Massachusetts. So, those were days when the Yankees were winning and the Red Sox were stinking. And I had a lot to talk about. But my kids are 10 and 7. They don't believe me that the Giants actually used to be good.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, "Dad, that's not true. They were never really good." I'm like, "No, they were actually really good. They won a bunch of Super Bowls and against the Patriots too."
Yeah. Oh, those hurt. Yeah.
But you know what, man? You guys have always been, I think, a kiss of good luck to Boston, to this country, to the world. I ask everybody this, Ken. First of all, happy opening day. I want to hear your thoughts on opening day. But I ask everybody on the show, where are you? And especially in what is trying times, it's opening day. We got some joy. We don't want them to take away our joy. Joy is an important form of resistance, and we got opening day. But where are you, my friend? And how are you?
I am well, thank you. I'm home in Boston, and I'm excited. You know, the Red Sox say, you know, we've become since our billionaire owner decided to turn us into the Oakland A's. It's nice to be rooting for a young team. Would like to spend some money to get it over the line, but it's nice to be competitive. We had a few years where baseball's you go through a horrible winter here, and baseball is what part of the your summer plans, and it sucks when you're out of it by July. So I'm looking forward to just another fun season. It's a fun team to watch, and I don't have any predictions. I typically do, but I've learned to, in my older age, I've become wiser, and I've guarded my predictions a little closer.
Did you watch the World Baseball Classic? You
I
guys
watch.
had the youngest guy on the team.
Yeah, and if our bats, if they can bring that back, and swing the bats and stuff like that, we'll have a good year. So, the World Baseball Classic's a great tournament, and you know, it's nice that it's before the season and doesn't have to like upend stuff the way like the Olympics do for hockey, or that four nations, where teams are losing, some like us losing Charlie McAvoy coming back from that last year. As much as those are great tournaments to watch, it sucks when it throws a curveball at your team season afterwards.
For sure. Well, we might have the Knicks versus the Celtics in the playoffs. Maybe I'll have you back on the show when we get to that point. But in the meantime, I think you're bringing up something important. It's been a hard winter. I mean, not
Yeah.
just the weather, but the politics. The controversy, the bloodshed, now war. You're a guy who has been inspiring, and you guys have been to Ukraine. You've helped veterans. You've done so many important things. Responding to need in Boston when stuff happens. I want to get to the serious issues, but I want to ask you, just as like a leader, as a person that inspires people every time you open your mouth or you do something, how do you get through hard winters? How did you get through what brought you through it and got you to this spring where hopefully we have some more hope and we have some more unity? But how do you get through hard times, man?
you know, it depends on the day. When I'm home and off tour and I'm looking at the news and there's 2 feet of snow outside, I'm just like everybody else, where you got to be careful that you need to recharge your own battery, so that you don't. And that's what this authoritarian regime wants. They want people to just say, F it, man. I can't look at the news anymore. And then you take your eye off the prize for even 3 days. And there's been so much crime, corruption, and killings and kidnappings that, you missed tragedies happening to a lot of people, and money being stolen from, taxpayers. So you got to recharge your battery. When I'm home, friends and family. And when I'm on tour, I'm blessed with the ability to have this fan base give us back so much love. So we're in a unique position where we've chosen to speak out and be vocal, which just seems like the only thing to do. A lot of times people will chalk us up. They'll say, well, artists shouldn't speak up. And I said, well, I disagree with that. But even if I agreed with that, if you're an artist or an athlete, if you're an artist that for 30 years, since its inception, has spoke about workers' rights, human rights, stood on picket lines, done all the things we've done over 30 years, then why would we be quiet now? And that's, and I just feel so strong to be able to stand on that track record of 30 years of never changing our tune. And I would say to many MAGA that a butthurt that the Dropkick Murphys, decided to be involved in politics. A lot of those people, you have to remember, white working class voters were a big part of our fan base that were lockstep with us, that were, you know, regular union guys or cops or firemen or whatever. And then this guy came down the escalator and somehow a silver spoon billionaire convinced half this country that he had their best interest in mind. And that's just insanity, and then, and not to say, because there's a lot of people that are on the Trump team that are just flat out racists under the rock, will like that their whole life. And this guy just came along and gave them the freedom to speak, in these ugly terms and talk down to people and talk down to women. But I also think, and I say this from people that I know in my life personally, that weren't racist, that were good people, but they got hooked on the lie. And then you get hooked on the algorithm. And then fast forward 10 years later, and you're not the person I knew 10, 15 years ago. So I think there's an element of some people have always been that, and he's been their vehicle to come out of hiding and out of the shadows. And there's other people that, for whatever reason, maybe they bought into it for something like no new wars, that is an admirable, thing to get behind, even though, of course, he, like all his promises, he didn't keep it. But my point is, even if you came into it for something simple like taxes, or, you thought it was better for business, I'm talking, 2016.
Yeah.
But now you've been dragged down mentally by whether it be the algorithm or just becoming used to years of this rhetoric, and then talk about younger people. There's people that have now voted in 2, potentially 3 elections that have never known civility in politics. They just think this is politics. They'll say to us, stay out of politics. And I say, I don't even consider this politics. I consider this about humanity. But there's people that have only known this one thing.
I think that's really important, because some folks have tried to normalize this, and it's not normal. It's not acceptable. There's the old saying, you might not be into politics, but politics is into you. And this is a time where it's into everybody. And you guys have been very brave. And I want to celebrate that, because I feel like the Grammys might have been kind of a tipping point, right? Where artists felt comfortable not even saying his name, but challenging ICE, right? Like, that was like a gateway into people kind of breaking the seal on ICE. And now the Iran war opens up another flank. And then maybe those two things will triangulate around understanding that Trump is the reason why a lot of this bad shit is happening. But you guys have been brave. You've been patriotic. You caught a lot of shit for it. But you also, part of why I wanted to talk to you, Ken, is you got your fingers on the pulse of where the country is and where it's going. You've been around for a long time. You guys saw this grow. You've seen it really grow. Now you're seeing it start to change, and you understand it on a very visceral level. But the top topic I want to bring to you is the all of it, right? You kind of took us there, but I think it's really, really important. I was going to say, Iran, ICE, Trump, go. But you really started to open that up in this conversation. And I just think that the moral example, or their lack of, that he sets is maybe the thing that's finally had people to have it. And they say, you know what? He lied to me. He lied to me. He lied to me about taxes. He lied to me about no new wars. He lied to me about keeping us safe. He lied to me about putting troops on the streets. And now he's trying to say to you, hey, don't believe your eyes, believe me. And people know it's bullshit. But talk about this moment, and especially the war, the forever war, because it's not just Iran. He wants to keep going. He has no checks on him, and he's just all gas, no brakes. You guys have spent a lot of time helping veterans, helping cops, helping firefighters. You know the cost of war. Can you talk about this moment with the war in particular and how you see it impacting people?
Yeah, so it's a lot to cover there. And I think that, one of the reasons that we speak out is because, aside from, like I said, we spoke out all along, but we've also, that the, the ideal of patriotism has been so co-opted, that You're not a patriot, or if you're not a Christian, the way I say, right wing national Christian nationalists, you don't, you're not worthy of God. If you don't, wave your flag and hate others who just arrived here, which is ironic for people from the Northeast or anywhere where chances are 1 or 2 generations ago we were the immigrants.
Mhm.
You know, and and blindly supporting whatever a president said. That was never what patriotism meant to me. It meant all the things that America was supposed to stand for. Arguably, may to a degree never did, but that we were the beacon of hope, the beacon of freedom. We were the people that should be giving someone a hand up, tr- treating their neighbors well, kindness, love, tolerance. And I say that with the preference that America has had its failings even in its best of times, but um, those are the things that I thought America strived to be, and now we're striving to be the opposite. We're the bully on the world stage. I travel the country, a lot of the out of the country a lot of the year, and I felt like in the first Trump presidency, and even through the Biden one, because of the division, um, Europeans almost looked at us like we were hostages. The people who weren't MAGA were just like, they felt bad for us. Like, oh, I can't believe you have to live there. Now I've seen the tune change internationally to us. Like, hey, we felt bad for you, but now, like, if you don't get out there on the street and like be ready to take a bullet to get rid of this guy, then fuck off, because now it's affecting the world economy and the world's safety. So I see the world losing its patience with even the people who don't support Donald Trump, because they say, well, it's your country, fix it. Look at how South Korea fixed it immediately when, they tried to seize power and whatnot. So the world is expecting more of all of us. And so I can say it's nice to be, when we're going to other countries, it's nice to not, we still have to drag the shame, but we have to drag it a little less, because at least we are actively trying to resist. And as a band who's been speaking out since 2000, well, like I said, our whole career, but is speaking out against Trump since before he was ever elected in the first place, trying to warn, like, I don't know, I'm not a political scientist, but I got a pretty good bullshit detector. And right off the rip was like, really? You guys believe what this guy's saying? And I would always say to my friends, like, he wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire on the sidewalk. You know what I mean? And I just knew that was the case. And so we spoke out since then, and no one would speak out. And what I say to bands now that are starting to come off the sideline, whether it's bands or actors or whatever, is like, it's easy now. It's like you're kicking him when he's down. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not ready to come out now when citizens are being executed in the streets and there's, you know, legitimate, pedophile allegations, like, and a war that nobody wanted, like, what else would it take for you to come off? So I say now, like, I'm not going to judge anyone for being silent prior. If you're ready now, for whatever reason it took you this long, come on out. The water's fine. Don't be scared. And it's almost like the equivalent of like being the third guy in a fight, like you're kicking him when he's down. You know what I mean? And you'll still get hate, and there's still, these clowns. I will say, like, in the early days of us speaking out, it would kind of suck, because no one would really like defend us on an internet level, because even people didn't want to, like, if you were getting hammered by MAGA or bots or Russia or whatever, people wouldn't want it turning on them. And
Yep.
now when someone comes in with negative comments, like, one, they get piled on by society, and two, it's almost laughable. Like, you're still going around putting your name to paper on the internet to defend this guy's, character and policies. It's like, man, how low will you go? So you know, and where are we today? I mean, the fraud, and is just incalculable. But what my worry is, not only like will we have the balls when we get power again to go after all these people, not Merrick Garland, let's let it just, hope everyone, turns over a new leaf, because we've proved you can't trust humanity. There's a reason we need real rules and laws. But man, where the hell are they going to get all the people to work, after all the Doge cuts? Like, the amount of prosecutions and investigations that would be needed is just mind blowing. But I think there'll be a lot of people ready, willing, and able to do that work when the time comes.
I think
I
that's
hate.
right. Man. Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say it's a battle for the soul of our country, and it's going to be long. It's going to be hard. And then when the battle is finally won, which I believe will win, then you got to rebuild, like they had to rebuild World War II after the war, right? And it's going to take a lot of people. But I think you're touching on something that I really want to celebrate about you guys. It's really important is, in these times, especially in the darkest of times, we need voices to the world that say Americans are not all on board with this. Americans are not all fucking crazy. Americans are not all cruel. And you guys speaking out was very important, because that, I remember 2004 when the Dixie Chicks first spoke out and they got hammered, right? And then eventually it gets to the point where I say Americans are not stupid. They're slow oftentimes, but they're not stupid. And they eventually get there, right? And they got there on Iraq, they got there on Afghanistan, and they're going to get there on him too. But I do feel like you guys opened that hole for other artists to go through. And then the Grammys kind of really pushed it open, because it went to the point where it wasn't cool, right? If you were supporting ICE, if you weren't speaking out, it wasn't cool. And the less cool it gets to support Trump is very important, I think, in pop culture, right? And not just the fact that he's 80 years old and he's a pedophile and he's a rapist and he's starting wars nobody wants. But, there was this little moment where people were like, all right, I don't think he's that cool, but I'm afraid of him. And then now they see that momentum shift and you guys are at the front of it. It's going to, I think, see a big spike point this weekend at the No Kings rallies and protests that are going to happen around the country and around the world. You guys are going to be at that in Boston. Can you talk about, I think this one's going to be really big because it's the first one since the Iran war really, unfolded. I have only one bone to pick with them. I wish they wouldn't call it No Kings. I wish they would just put a point on it and say no Trump. If they said no Trump, they might have 3x the number of people, but the whole No Kings thing, I mean, you're a master storyteller. It's a little complicated for people to understand sometimes, but
Yeah, I
no
agree.
Trump is something almost everybody can get behind. And so now you got no ICE, you got no Trump, you got no Kings, you got no Iran. But at the end of the day, it's going to be potentially a warm day in the Northeast. Spring break is here. Kids are back, with time, and people are pissed off. I mean, what are you expecting and what are you hoping to achieve at No Kings this weekend, man?
Well, people, there's that debate where some people will say, no Kings, what's the point? We march down the road or we get in a park and we, and I will say there is a point. It's not enough. It's not going to end there. But two things, getting back to what we talked about before, about like, how do you keep yourself sane, or what, having done the first No Kings in April in Boston, the sense of community and that sense of feeling that you get when you go, because, the news is so bad, and the Trump supporters are so friggin' loud and obnoxious that at times it makes you feel like they must be the majority. And you go out on a day like that, like No Kings, and you realize like you're in that community of people who want to see America do the right thing. You almost can take like a deep breath and go, okay, like there's hope here, Secondly, I'll say, in my mind, and you see this from the boycotts of the streaming platforms and whatnot after the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, the real way to make this Epstein billionaire class listen is to hurt them in their wallet. And I think that aside from getting people out of office election wise, that it would probably come to a general strike of some sort to really shut the system down. People don't go from no participation to a general strike. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not even at the numbers on the straight up participation level yet. So I think that if we can say get the No Kings numbers to, I think it's somewhere in maybe the 12 million. I think I heard 12, 13 million, where you get to that like percentage of the population, that if we could then get that same amount of people to enact a general strike. Okay. But like I said, you got to involve the people. You got to get them invested in protest. You got to get them invested in taking part in the resistance. So I feel like, one, the No Kings Days are good for community and restoring your hope that there's other people that also are thinking sanely. But two, I think it's a step in activating people towards larger, more prolonged resistance. And so that's why we take part in it. And I do think your idea of, you know, changing the name to No Trump is a great idea. I'm gonna say that from stage. I'm gonna steal your line.
Well, I think it's yeah, I mean, look, it's a moment, right? And movements evolve, right? And strategies evolve and leaders emerge. And you've been such a great leader. You're gonna have the mic, you're gonna have a tremendous ability to help people understand this moment. But the point you're making is really critical. I know that from organizing veterans. Community is key, right? For hope, for power, but also just to know you're not alone and to share that pain, share that burden, but also share the energy and the hope that's out there. Like, I'm going to take my kids this weekend. They got a chess tournament in basketball, and then I'm taking them, and they don't know, I think, the energy that they're going to feel when they're a part of that. And I want them to see democracy, right? All its different, beautiful and ugly forms. And we're all, of course, also concerned about the security situation. We don't know how it's going to respond. So it's fucked up that I have to worry about whether or not I can take my kids to a protest. But it's also about that courage to get out there and be a part of this, and to say that you stood up and you weren't just complicit. Let me ask you to go, Ken, below the radar on a point that I think is related. You guys have fans of all kinds. A lot of them are MAGA supporters, Trump supporters that maybe are still with you. Maybe they're a little quieter. Maybe they've left. There's the famous video of you, challenging the guy who's got the MAGA shirt on at one of your shows, saying it's not made in America, right? That thing is going everywhere. But can you talk a little bit more about how you see those people that maybe weren't going to change? My brother's got a good friend. I'm not going to mention his name. You know who you are. And he's been flying Trump flags, and he's been all in on Trump, fucking up Christmas every year. And my brother called me and he said, "Hey, he's off." I said, "You got to be fucking kidding me." Wow. And he said, "No, he's done." He said, "He's done. He's done with him." And I said, if this guy is done with him, that's a big fucking deal, because he was hardcore as they come. Can you talk about that change that you're seeing, not just in Boston, but in your travels around the country, and what that means?
Yeah, I think I get some of my best feedback when, after every show, I stay down front of the stage to thank those people that are right up front, because those people up front at a show is really what drives the energy for us. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I'm a sit in the balcony guy now when I'm at a concert, but the kids down front singing along with a fist in the air. And I have a lot of people that'll say to me, like, I'm concerned, especially when we're playing in the South, I'm conservative, but I don't support this guy. I don't support this bullshit. This isn't right. We don't treat people like this. And, that to me, I've never been a conservative, but like, if you're going to say what you allegedly preach, like, a lot of those family, God, like, that's not about kicking people when they're down and shooting people on the street. And I think a lot of these true conservatives are saying, wait, man, why did we let this guy tarnish our image, And even though, I consider myself a leftist, like, it's nice to have a sane conversation with someone who, you know, aligns to values that are different than mine, but yet they're not Trump, because Trump is not, he's not anyone's values but his own, man. So I see a change. I see, and one of the main reasons at every show we speak out is you hit the nail on the head, is just normalizing speaking out. Like, listen, the last thing I want to do is talk about that fucking guy. You know what I mean? I never want to utter his name again. But every night I do it because, one, I want to be on record that Dropkick Murphys took a stand every night, because not everyone follows it on the internet or whatever. And two, I want to, I can say, when I say something at a show, the cheer gets louder and louder. And I was saying it in 2016. It wasn't shooting fish in a barrel. We, as you know, we have been there for veterans throughout our whole career. We've been there for first responders throughout our whole career. So I know that there's a large percentage of our fan base that may lean conservative. And, and to those people, even them, I said this before on another one of my rants on stage that went kind of viral. I said, in a very red area, I said, do you mind if I have your ear for a minute? Because if you're someone who leans right, and you don't agree with what I'm going to say, have we not earned your respect and maybe attention for 2 minutes in the fact that we've played at the funerals of soldiers that have come home. We've played at the funerals for first responders. We've been there with the families. We've donated to the families. Like, we're not just talk, we're action. And I think that has given, even if they're giving us the finger when I'm saying it, it's given. When I frame it like that, they're like, all right, I'll listen to what you have to say. I mean, I remember we played at the to show you how far this is seeped into our culture. We played at the international convention for the IAFF, the firefighters union, was in Boston. And we were booked to play like the end party at an kind of outdoor tented, like 5,000 cap venue, private thing for the firefighters. And they had just had JD Vance speak that day. And I was bullshit because I didn't really like the fact that we were playing this, different venue, but down the street. So I said, hey, man, I got to say something. And they were telling me, don't say anything. Our membership's too divided. Don't say anything. And I said, I'm playing at a union event and you're telling me not to say anything? You booked the wrong fucking band. You know what I mean? And, it's just insane that rank and file union members are willing to vote against their own best interest, and even at No Kings, where's the labor unions? They're not. I don't. The building trades aren't speaking at these events. Why is that? They'll be there to support, but behind the scenes, it's crazy.
Yep.
Look at the Teamsters. I love you, Sean O'Brien, but Elon Musk and friggin' Bezos are going to automate everything, and there's going to be no work left for anyone. Why are we voting for these people or anyone that supports them? Am I crazy? Am I radical?
No, you're not. You're not. You're not. And I think it's really, really important because you bust a seal, and courage is contagious. And I think there's a really important point that I want to make to folks too, because I got friends that have been hardcore, and you don't have to be a fucking Democrat. And that's why this show is so important too, right? You don't have to go full bore and vote for Elizabeth Warren or love AOC. You just got to leave them and stop giving him your name and your support and your good name and your honor, right? He's besmirching all of you. And there's a off ramp, and an off ramp can be coming to a protest. It can be listening to this show. It can be going to a Dropkick Murphys show, right? And you don't have to go all in and change your affiliation and vote for Mamdani in order to leave this, right, and be a part of what the future is. And I think that's an important message for people to hear. Your music is contagious, but so is the energy and the power and the spirit. That's why every time I hear a track come on, it just kind of goes over me like so many other folks, because it's about so much that we don't have the power necessarily or the creativity to say ourselves. I got to ask you one thing, Ken, and then we'll go to something good. Would you ever run for office, man? We need people to step up right now. We're going to need people to clean up this mess. I know you're a Democrat. I might try to get you to declare your independence and leave the Democratic Party. But either way, man, if you run, you got my vote and support. Can we get you to run for anything?
Fuck no. I think I can do way more telling the truth from the outside. I mean, listen, part of the reason that, the Democratic Party lost so many rank and file working class union members is because, a lot of the Democrats became bought and paid by corporate interest and stuff. So until we take money out of politics, nothing's really ever going to change. I believe one side votes, the voting records is way better than the other side, but there's still some people that, aren't doing enough and won't do enough. And that's where people got disenfranchised and started to look for something different. And obviously it backfired and it didn't work. And all I will say is that we've had a lot of problems under the surface, whether it still be rampant racism, whether it be dark money in politics. And all I can hope for that will come out of this is that the real change that we kind of needed all along will happen. And you made that, analogy back to, FDR and after World War II and like getting back to things that take care of people. Like, why is the richest country in the world not providing health care for people? Why are we not taking care of our homeless? Why are we not taking care of our homeless veterans? And both sides love to point the fingers um, but like, let's stop pointing fingers and just get it done, and right now we're going in the exact opposite way with one side, the right loves to talk about how they love the veterans, you know what I mean? But where's the action? Where is the action? I don't see it. I just see the deficit skyrocketing and billionaires getting richer. I don't see how that's helping veterans. So no, I won't run for politics. I'll just keep screaming into my microphone. True story, when my friend Marty Walsh, became mayor of Boston, he put me on, the mayor before, Mayor Menino had been mayor for 20 plus years. So, and Mayor Menino kept things tight to the vest with his inner circle. So it was a challenging task to come in and kind of learn how to, reshape and govern the city of Boston. And Marty put me on one of his transition teams, the economic development transition team. And the reason I ended up on that is because Mayor Menino was famous for just being old fashioned and not doing, cool stuff with the arts and things like that. And I would always be traveling in other cities around the world and talking to Marty, saying, you should see what they're doing in Berlin today. They have this festival and this fair and there's all these people. Why doesn't Boston do this stuff? So he thought I had a good, eye to the outside world and whatnot. And so he puts me on the economic development transition team. I went to the first meeting. It was about 30 people, and I'd never been in a room with so many fucking blowhards in my life. And and I said, that sucked. And I went to the second meeting, and I lasted about 15 minutes, and I said, I'm out of here. I cannot take this. So I'll just stay on the sidelines and keep telling the truth.
Well, we need that too, but I'm gonna still keep on you because we're recruiting, and there's a lot of different ways to serve, and I think one of the most important ways you serve, anybody who's seen your shows or goes to your shows knows about the atmosphere you create, the command climate, the example you set for our kids. And I've taken my kids to a lot of shows, and oftentimes they'll see somebody who understands the community that you build when people come to a show, right? I mean, I remember taking my kids to Michael Franti once, and the love and the kindness and how he elevates old people. And then we've been to, heavy metal shows that can do the same, all different shows. But you guys always bring that spirit of community and brotherhood and sisterhood in a way that is so powerful. It's an example to our kids. And that I think I'm most grateful for. But I got to end with something good. All right. And I'm going to go first. I got a special one that's perfect for you. And then I'll come over to you. For folks that have been listening to this show for a long time, we support cops, firefighters, first responders. Our great friend Rob Serra, 9/11 first responder, American Heroes, often been on this show, and he is promoting. And I want to remind you, this weekend, Sunday, is the 52nd annual FDNY versus NYPD hockey game. The event is sold out. It's always amazing. It's at the UBS Arena. Long Island Sports Network is going to have it. It'll be online. I'll post clips. But it's really an inspiring day. It's always a reminder about our 9/11 first responders who continue to fight toxin exposures, an issue that I care about a lot myself, and we've supported on this show. But it's a great example of how people can beat the hell out of each other for a game, and then when it's over, they shake hands and they're all in the same fight. It's an example to our kids and to our country. I know it's baseball season, but it's also getting in to be a fun time in hockey, and this game is always a highlight of the calendar. And shout out to Rob Serra and everybody at the Ray Pfeiffer Foundation, the FDNY Foundation, the NYPD, all those guys. It's going to be an awesome day, and we celebrate you, and it's definitely something good. All right, Ken Casey, over to you. What do you got, man? What's something good?
Well, I'm gonna. By the way, shout out to that game, and that's why hockey is the greatest game. The gloves probably will hit the ice in that game, and then, but you know, you can. It's the only sport where you can literally try to take someone's head off for 60 minutes and hug each other afterwards. It's amazing. But I'm gonna switch it up a little bit here because my mother, the woman, it's just me and my mother growing up, and she raised me to be the human that I am today, for better or worse. And she's coming up on her 80th birthday, and before our call, I was just trying to figure out how the hell I'm gonna do something worthy of an 80th birthday. So shout out to Eileen Casey, the greatest woman on earth, and we'll acknowledge her pending big day.
Bravo, Eileen Casey, you are a
Score me
legend, and
that'll
you tell.
score me some good points with her too. So
It was my mom's birthday last weekend, and she's turning 80 next year, so I'm gonna have
oh
to get your
yeah,
notes. But
there you
if
go.
your mom is listening, I know she's incredibly proud of you, as any parent would be. Man, you're so inspiring, and she must be as well. Your family, your crew, all the guys in the band. You guys, leadership's about sacrifice, and you guys, they see you on stage. They don't see the threats you get. They don't see the hard work you put in. Maybe what about ambassador to Ireland? How
Oh, yeah.
amazing would
Well,
that
I
be?
listen. Claire Cronin, Brockton, Mass. Shout out. She was Biden's ambassador to Ireland and did a kick-ass job. She went over and immediately sanctioned the Irish mob who had ruined the sport of boxing in Ireland with corruption and threats and all that. And she came in and dropped the hammer and internationally sanctioned the mob in Dublin. So she's got balls of steel. And we actually played at the U.S. Embassy's 4th of July. They throw a big 4th of July party in Dublin, and we wouldn't have said yes to that for anyone but a Brockton gal. So I would take that job. Yes, you should see the house
All
they get
right.
to live in. Holy shit, it's amazing.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, you could have some great parties, and
yeah.
the music would be awesome. You'd be a great cultural I will put a pin in it. If that
All
we
right.
will work on your nomination once we get a new president. But dude, you've been an amazing patriot, a role model, courageous, brave. If folks aren't already Dropkick Murphys fans, they are now. Not just about the music, but about the work and the spirit, and defending our democracy, man. That's what you guys have been doing for so long, and giving people a real touchstone that they need in times like this, especially. So I'm grateful for your leadership, your friendship, your support. Props to you and everybody who's going to be out in the streets and at the Dropkick Murphys shows in the days ahead. I hope you'll come back again, man, and
Well, thank you for
go
all you
Yanks.
thank you for all you do, and you had to end it like that, you son of a bitch. Thanks, Paul.
Celebrate dictatorships and balls of the regime while abusing helpless immigrants. The bullies went free. You dedicate your flag to the hand of God. Now come back with this kingdom squad. Citizen, I say hey. Citizen, I say hey. They're calling Trent and army, fuck, just the fear today. Take your blasting weapon and let me on your way.